just in total shock when he ended up winning and keeping the belt. But what was interesting is what happened after match. Behind the scenes, not on script, not part of the storylines, apparently Brock Lesnar and Vince McMahon got into a very heated altercation after the match, where Lesnar actually ended up throwing the belt at McMahon. Now, Lesnar has, about an hour ago, it was announced he has re-signed with the WWE, but it's only for 3 events. And a lot of insiders are saying that 2 reasons Lesnar was upset was, 1, how the match went, and 2, people believe that he was supposed to drop that belt last night, and that Vince McMahon, midway through the match, changed his mind because of how fan reaction was going and decided that he wanted him to keep the belt. We don't know what happened with the backstage altercation or what it was about. There's reports that McMahon's upset that Lesnar went off script, that he busted Roman Reigns open intentionally, that was not something that was scripted to be done. And we've heard this before from Lesnar in the ring with the WWE, that he's busted some people open, quote unquote, intentionally or unintentionally, but it was not part of what was supposed to happen. And that's something that WWE, if you pay attention to it, has chimed away from. They've gotten a lot more PG now. They don't do the fake blood stuff anymore. It's a rarity. But really, the last 2 or 3 Lesnar fights, he's ended up busting his opponent open with his forearm. This happened to Reigns in the match. There's reports that that's what Vince McMahon was upset about with Lesnar after the match, that he went off script and that he intentionally busted open Roman Reigns. The other side of the story is Lesnar was the one that was heated after the match because he was supposed to lose to Reigns, and McMahon all of a sudden changed his mind midway through the match, and Lesnar was pissed off about that, which caused him to get into an altercation with McMahon after the event. But some interesting news there, because you've got UFC coming into the WWE. Not just with Ronda Rousey getting there, but with Brock Lesnar wanting to go back to the UFC, which is why a lot of people expected that the story, the script, was going to be written where he would lose last night. Didn't happen. But he has signed an extension. Apparently it's only a 3-event extension. So it sounds like very soon he's going to go back to the UFC, which is what they need. Because let's face it, when you look at Dana White and the UFC, they're not in a good position right now. They don't have a face. If Brock Lesnar comes back and re-signs with the UFC, which it sounds like he is going to do, possibly as early as May, he would help with that promotion. It would be a face that, people liked watching his matches. People liked watching his fights. He was a big draw for them. UFC's lacking that right now. I talked about this on the show Sunday. If that whole stuff doesn't happen with Conor McGregor, where he attacked the buses with the fighters on it, most people wouldn't have even known that a UFC pay-per-view was taking place on Saturday. And even though Dana White was so upset and disgusted with what Conor McGregor did, he ended up using that footage to promote UFC 223. And now there's talk that he's going to try to promote a Conor McGregor and Khabib fight. But obviously, we all know UFC is not as big as it was, 5-10 years ago. And part of that is the talent and faces that they've lost. And some blame Dana White, because ever since he sold UFC for he bought the company for $2 million, he sold it for $2 billion, that he's not promoting it and doing the things with it that he was before he sold it, and that is what is inevitably hurting the UFC now, of why it's not getting recognized, of why they don't have those big faces. But here you have Conor, who just, got paid $100 million for fighting Mayweather. He doesn't need the UFC. The UFC needs him. He doesn't need them. But if the reports are true, and that Brock Lesnar is expected to re-sign with UFC soon, that he would get, a big payout, a big draw to go there. And obviously that would help Dana White and UFC, because you're bringing a familiar face. You're bringing somebody that people want to see fight. And that is what UFC is lacking. They are lacking those type of faces and personalities. It's like I said, every sport, every story, every movie, every sport needs a bad guy. They need that face that some people love and that some people hate, but they need that face. And right now, UFC doesn't have that. Kyle Busch grabbed his first win of the season at Texas. Congrats to him. Officially getting to victory lane. Giancarlo Stanton is having a terrible start to the season. He is 3 of 28 with a .07 batting average, with 16 strikeouts in the first 6 games. He has had 2 games in the first 6 where he had 5 strikeouts in each. So he's had 2 games where he struck out 5 times. Now, some people are crediting this to, pitchers have figured him out. He had a big season last season. Was in the home run derby, all that crap. Put up ridiculous numbers. But that now, pitchers have figured him out. I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to be okay. But we all know Major League Baseball has turned into swing for the fences. Go back to last season. The amount of strikeouts yes, the amount of home runs were through the roof, but so were the amount of strikeouts. Last season was the most strikeouts ever in a Major League Baseball season. Yes, it was the most home runs ever collectively in a season, but it was also the most strikeouts ever in a season. These guys are swinging for the fences now. They are swinging for home runs. They're all in. With that, you're going to get a lot of strikeouts. Giancarlo Stanton is finding that out early. He has to settle in. And I think that he eventually will. Some people are now saying, oh, look how smart Derek Jeter and the Marlins look right now. That's going to change. He's going to get in the rhythm. I do think he'll be all right. I'm a Yankees fan. I got I know a lot of people that are Yankees fan, and they all ask me, what's going on here? We're not starting off the greatest. Well, yes, but it's only 6 games into the season. There's 150-something games left. It's a long ways to go. And this is a Yankees team that's expected to get back to the postseason. Expected to do more than, last season they weren't even expected to get to the postseason. And they did. That's why I stood by they should have kept Girardi. What he did with that team and that staff last year was unbelievable. What Aaron Judge did was unbelievable. But what he was able to do and to get them to the postseason when they weren't even expected to get there was phenomenal. Now, the Yankees GM, he says that, we could have won the World Series, we still would have let Joe Girardi go. I have a hard time believing that. Now, again, it's early, but you have a manager in Aaron Boone, he's a Yankee great, a Yankee Hall of Famer, but he's never managed before. Never. I hope this plays out, because the Blue Jays are going to be good. The the Red Sox are going to be good. And more than likely, the Red Sox are going to be the team to beat in that division this year. But again, it's early, folks. We do this with every sport. We overreact early, and we're doing it in baseball, and we're doing it with the Yankees, and we're doing it with Giancarlo Stanton. It's early. Let him settle in. He'll be all right. They'll be all right. My main concern, just like I told all my Yankee fans, my main concern is that pitching staff. One, the way Aaron Boone has handled it has not been good. If he doesn't fix and correct that, they're not going to go anywhere fast. And secondly, is the staff itself. That's where they have to be great. We've seen with every team, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Astros, they all have something in common. They improved their bullpen. Last year when the Astros won the World Series, they had one of the best bullpens, best ERA, best save percentage in the league. Same thing with the Cubs, the year before that. You have to have a great pitching staff to win a World Series. And right now, that's what the Yankees are lacking. They've got the hitting. They've got the Bronx Bombers back. It's the pitching staff that they need help with. And when you look at the Red Sox look like that team this season. They had the pieces in place. They had the pitching staff. They're going to be more than likely a team to reckon with when the postseason comes around. If the Yankees want to be in that position, their pitching staff has to get better. Because that's the part, even though it's early on the season, that's the part that concerns me the most, is with how that pitching staff has looked 6 games in. And also how Aaron Boone has handled it. Some situations he's pulled guys too early, and in other situations he kept them in too late. You have to correct those little things, and that will happen throughout the season. I do think they'll be okay. I do think they will be a wild card team. I don't think they'll win the division this year because I think the Red Sox are just going to be too good, and that hurts for me to say as a Yankees fan, but I think they'll be a wild card team, but they have work to do with that pitching staff. A lot of work. Well, how about Shohei Ohtani of the Angels? Sunday, 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, 12 strikeouts. He's having a great start to this season. He's 7 of 18 hitting. That's a .389 batting average. 3 home runs in his first 6 games. He's 2-0 pitching with a 2.08 ERA. What this kid is doing is remarkable. And to think, the Yankees were so... This is my Yankees fanatic coming out at me, but they were so close to getting him. But he wanted to stay on the West Coast. The Dodgers were close to getting him as well. But he wanted to stay on the West Coast. He comes from Japan. He didn't want to go too far. He wanted to stay, somewhat close. And the West Coast is obviously the closest for him. And he picked the Angels. But damn, this kid, now granted, it's, like I said, it's early. Another interesting stat is he has 13 strikeouts with his splitter this season. Batters are 0-19